Maya stared at the rejection email on her laptop screen for the third time that morning. Another advertising agency had turned her down, citing budget cuts and hiring freezes. Her savings account showed a balance that made her stomach twist with anxiety. The rent was due in 2 weeks, and her part-time coffee shop job barely covered groceries, let alone her downtown apartment. She pushed back from her small kitchen table and walked to the window, watching the busy street below. 6 months ago, she had been confident about her future. Fresh out of college with a marketing degree, she had big dreams of working for a top agency in the city. But the job market had other plans, and every door seemed to slam shut just as she approached it. Her phone buzzed with a text from her roommate Jessica. "Hey girl, I know you need money fast. My friend Chloe manages a upscale nightclub downtown. They need servers and the tips are amazing. Want me to set up an interview?" Maya hesitated. She had never worked in that kind of environment before. The idea of working late nights in a club filled with loud music and crowds made her uncomfortable. But desperation has a way of changing perspectives quickly. She thought about her ex-boyfriend Daniel, who used to tease her about being too conservative and sheltered. They had dated for 2 years during college before he left to pursue his medical residency in another state. He came from money and never understood her financial struggles. Their relationship ended when she realized they lived in completely different worlds. Daniel was probably finishing his residency now, well on his way to becoming a successful doctor like his father. Meanwhile, she was considering working at a nightclub just to pay rent. The irony wasn't lost on her. By afternoon, Maya found herself standing outside the Golden Hour, an upscale nightclub in the heart of the business district. The building looked elegant during the day, with its black marble exterior and gold accents. She could only imagine how different it would look at night, pulsing with music and filled with well-dressed patrons. Chloe turned out to be a friendly woman in her early 30s, with perfectly styled blonde hair and a warm smile. She explained that the Golden Hour catered to young professionals, entrepreneurs, and wealthy clients looking for a sophisticated night out. The servers wore elegant black dresses and the tips were indeed substantial, especially on weekends. "We're not just any nightclub," Chloe explained as they walked through the empty venue. "Our clientele includes doctors, lawyers, business owners, and celebrities who value discretion and quality service. Our servers are professional and well compensated for maintaining that standard." Maya looked around at the luxurious interior. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, and the bar was made of gleaming black granite. Private booths lined the walls, each with its own subtle lighting. It was far more upscale than she had imagined. "The work isn't easy," Chloe continued. "You'll be on your feet for hours, dealing with demanding customers, and the atmosphere can be intense. But if you can handle it, you'll make more in tips here in one weekend than most people make in a week at regular jobs." Maya thought about her dwindling bank account and the stack of rejection letters on her desk at home. She had always prided herself on being independent and self-sufficient. Her parents had worked multiple jobs to put her through college, and she wasn't about to call them for money now. "When can I start?" she heard herself asking. Chloe smiled knowingly. "I like your attitude. We'll start you on weekday shifts to get you comfortable with the routine. If you work out, we'll move you to weekends where the real money is." As Maya filled out paperwork in Chloe's office, she tried to push away the voice in her head questioning this decision. This was temporary, she told herself, just until she found something in her field. She would work hard, save money, and get back on track with her career goals. Walking home that evening, Maya felt a strange mix of relief and apprehension. She had a job that would pay her bills, but it meant stepping into a world she had never experienced before. She wondered what her college friends would think, what her parents would say, and most of all, what Daniel would think if he could see her now. But Daniel was hundreds of miles away, probably saving lives in some prestigious hospital, completely unaware that his ex-girlfriend was about to start serving drinks to strangers in a nightclub. Their paths had diverged completely, and there was no reason they would ever cross again. That night, Maya stood in front of her closet, looking at her limited wardrobe and wondering what exactly one wore to work at an upscale nightclub. Her most sophisticated outfit was a simple black dress she had worn to job interviews. It would have to do. She had no way of knowing that in just a few days her carefully compartmentalized worlds would collide in the most unexpected way possible. The city felt huge and anonymous, making it seem impossible that she would ever encounter anyone from her past life. But fate, as Maya would soon discover, has a way of bringing people together when they least expect it. As she prepared for her first shift the next evening, Maya focused on staying positive. This job was a stepping stone, not a destination. She would work hard, save money, and keep applying for marketing positions. In a few months, this chapter of her life would be just a memory. A story about the time she had to take an unconventional job to make ends meet. Little did she know that her definition of unconventional was about to be completely redefined. Maya's first week at the Golden Hour passed in a blur of learning routines, memorizing drink orders, and adjusting to the late-night schedule. The work was more demanding than she had anticipated, but she was surprised to find herself adapting quickly. The other servers were friendly and helped her navigate the complex world of upscale nightclub service. Thursday night brought her first real test. The club was busier than usual, filled with a mix of business people unwinding after work and younger professionals celebrating someone's promotion. Maya moved between tables with growing confidence, balancing trays of expensive cocktails and making polite conversation with customers. "You're getting the hang of this faster than most," said Sarah, a veteran server who had taken Maya under her wing. "Chloe's already talking about moving you to weekend shifts next week." Maya felt a surge of pride mixed with uncertainty. Weekend shifts meant better money, but also meant fully committing to this job in a way that felt more permanent than she was comfortable with. She was still sending out resumes during the day, but the responses were becoming fewer and less encouraging. At her assigned section near the VIP area, Maya noticed a group of well-dressed men in their late 20s settling into one of the premium booths. They had the confident air of people accustomed to luxury, ordering top-shelf whiskey and speaking in the casual way of those discussing serious money. "Excuse me, miss," one of them called out as she passed. "Could we get another round? And maybe some of those appetizer platters?" Maya approached their table with a professional smile, notepad ready. The man who had spoken had dark hair and an expensive watch that caught the light. Something about his voice seemed familiar, but the club's dim lighting and loud music made it difficult to focus on details. "Of course," she replied, taking their order efficiently. "I'll have that right out for you." As she turned to leave, she heard fragments of their conversation. They were discussing medical procedures, hospital rotations, and upcoming board examinations. Doctors, she realized, or at least medical residents. The Golden Hour's upscale reputation apparently extended to attracting successful young professionals. In the kitchen, Maya found herself thinking about Daniel again. She wondered if he was out somewhere similar, celebrating with his fellow residents after a long day at the hospital. The thought made her both nostalgic and slightly bitter. He had always been so certain about his path, so confident in his future success. When she returned with their drinks, the group was deep in conversation about a colleague's engagement party planned for the following weekend. Maya set down their glasses carefully, trying not to eavesdrop but unable to avoid hearing their discussion about guest lists and venue details. "Thank you," the dark-haired man said, looking up briefly as she placed his drink in front of him. In that moment, their eyes met in the dim light, and Maya felt her heart skip a beat. The familiar voice suddenly made sense. It was Daniel. She stood frozen for a moment, unsure if he had recognized her. His expression seemed puzzled, as if he was trying to place where he knew her from. The lighting in the club was deliberately atmospheric, casting shadows that could easily obscure someone's identity. Maya quickly lowered her head and stepped back from the table. "Enjoy your evening," she said in a professional tone, hoping her voice didn't betray her shock. She hurried away from their section, her mind racing. Of all the clubs in the city, of all the nights he could have chosen to go out, Daniel had walked into her workplace. The odds seemed impossible, yet here he was, sitting not 20 feet away from where she was serving drinks. In the relative quiet of the service area, Maya tried to collect herself. Maybe he hadn't recognized her. The lighting was dim, she was wearing more makeup than usual, and her hair was styled differently for work. It had been over a year since they had seen each other, and people change. But as the evening progressed, she couldn't shake the feeling that he was watching her. Every time she glanced in the direction of his table, she caught him looking her way with that same puzzled expression. His friends continued their animated conversation, but Daniel seemed distracted. "You okay?" Sarah asked, noticing Maya's nervous energy. "You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine," Maya replied quickly. "Just tired, I guess." The group of doctors stayed later than most Thursday night customers, ordering several rounds and clearly enjoying themselves. Maya did her best to avoid their section, asking other servers to handle their table when possible. But in a busy club with limited staff, it was impossible to completely avoid them. Around midnight, as Maya was clearing tables in a nearby section, she overheard one of Daniel's friends mention his name directly. "Daniel, you've been quiet tonight. Everything all right?" Maya risked a glance in their direction and saw Daniel shaking his head as if clearing his thoughts. "Yeah, just thought I recognized someone." "Probably nothing." Her stomach tightened. He was suspicious but not certain. She still had a chance to get through the night without a confrontation. The last thing she wanted was an awkward conversation about why she was working at a nightclub when she had a college degree. As closing time approached, Maya felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion. She had made it through the shift without having to face Daniel directly. The group of doctors had paid their substantial bill and were preparing to leave, their conversation turning to weekend plans and upcoming shifts at the hospital. But as Maya was wiping down tables in her section, she noticed Daniel had separated from his group and was walking in her direction. Her heart rate quickened as she realized there was nowhere to go, no way to avoid what was about to happen. He stopped a few feet away from her table, his expression a mixture of curiosity and something that might have been concern. In the brighter lights that came on during closing time, there was no mistaking who she was. "Maya," he said quietly, his voice carrying the same tone she remembered from their college conversations. "Is that really you?" Maya's hands trembled slightly as she continued wiping the table, buying herself a few seconds to compose an answer. When she finally looked up at Daniel, she was struck by how much he had changed. He was taller somehow, more confident in his posture, with the kind of quiet authority that came from making life-and-death decisions in hospital corridors. "Hello, Daniel," she said, forcing her voice to remain steady. "Yes, it's me." He stood there for a moment, clearly processing the situation. His friends had moved toward the exit, calling out that they would wait for him by the door. The club was nearly empty now, with only staff and a few lingering customers finishing their drinks. "I thought it was you," he said, his voice softer than she remembered, "but I wasn't sure. You look—" He paused, searching for the right words. "Different." Maya knew what he meant. Gone was the casual college student in jeans and university sweatshirts. In her place stood a woman in an elegant black dress, her makeup carefully applied, moving with the practiced efficiency of someone working in upscale hospitality. "People change," she replied, continuing to clean the table even though it was spotless. "How have you been?" "Good. Really good." Daniel seemed uncertain about how much to share. "I'm finishing my residency at Metropolitan General, emergency medicine. It's been intense, but I love it." Maya nodded, not surprised. Daniel had always been drawn to high-pressure situations, thriving on the adrenaline and the challenge. Emergency medicine suited him perfectly. "That's great," she said genuinely. "You always knew exactly what you wanted to do." An uncomfortable silence settled between them. Daniel's friends were growing impatient by the door, but he seemed reluctant to leave. Finally, he asked the question Maya had been dreading. "So, are you working here? I mean, what happened to the marketing career? You were so passionate about advertising." Maya felt heat rise to her cheeks. There was no judgment in his voice, only curiosity, but the question still stung. She had imagined this moment differently in her mind, fantasizing about running into Daniel when she was successful and established, not when she was struggling to pay rent. "The job market has been tough," she said simply. "This is temporary while I keep looking for something in my field." Daniel nodded, but she could see the wheels turning in his head. He was probably calculating the cost of her apartment, wondering how someone with a college degree had ended up serving drinks at a nightclub. The same Daniel who used to question her choices was now seeing her at what felt like her lowest point. "Maya, listen," he started, his voice taking on a tone she remembered from their more serious conversations. "If you need help, if you're having financial problems, I could—" "No," Maya cut him off, perhaps more sharply than she intended. "I don't need help. I'm doing fine." The lie hung in the air between them. They both knew that working at a nightclub when you had other qualifications wasn't usually a choice made from a position of strength. But Maya's pride wouldn't allow her to accept anything that resembled charity, especially not from Daniel. "Daniel," one of his friends called from the entrance. "We're calling an Uber." He glanced toward his friends, then back at Maya. Look, I know this is weird running into each other like this, but maybe we could get coffee sometime? Catch up properly? Maya hesitated. Part of her wanted to say yes, to recapture some connection with her past when life felt simpler and more certain. But another part of her recoiled at the idea of sitting across from Daniel in some coffee shop, explaining how her dreams had stalled while his had accelerated. I don't think that's a good idea, she said quietly. We both have different lives now. Daniel looked hurt by her rejection, but he nodded, understanding. Okay, but Maya, for what it's worth, there's nothing wrong with honest work. You shouldn't be ashamed of doing what you need to do. His attempt at reassurance only made her feel worse. The implication that she needed reassurance about her job choices highlighted exactly how far she felt she had fallen from her original path. I should finish closing up, Maya said, turning back to her cleaning tasks. Have a good night, Daniel. He stood there for another moment, clearly wanting to say more. But his friends were calling again, more insistently this time, and the moment passed. Good night, Maya. It was good to see you. She watched him walk away, joining his friends as they headed out into the night. Through the large windows, she could see them on the sidewalk, probably discussing the expensive drinks and the unexpected encounter with someone from their past. Maya finished her closing duties in a daze, mechanically completing tasks while her mind replayed every moment of their conversation. Sarah noticed her distracted state but didn't push for details, simply offering to help with the final cleanup. As Maya finally gathered her things to leave, Chloe approached her with a satisfied expression. Great work tonight, Maya. I've been watching how you handle yourself and I'm impressed. I want to put you on the weekend rotation starting Friday. The money will be much better. Maya nodded numbly, accepting the promotion that a few hours earlier would have thrilled her. Now it felt like another step deeper into a world she had never planned to enter, a world that Daniel had just witnessed her inhabiting. Walking to her car in the employee parking area, Maya felt the weight of the evening settling on her shoulders. Seeing Daniel had forced her to confront the gap between where she had thought she would be by now and where she actually was. His obvious success in his chosen field only highlighted her own struggles, but mixed with the embarrassment and disappointment was something else, a small spark of defiance. Daniel had always been privileged, always had advantages that smoothed his path. He had never faced the kind of choices she was facing now, never had to swallow his pride and take whatever work was available. She thought about his offer of coffee, his suggestion that they catch up. What would be the point? So he could feel better about himself by checking in on his less fortunate ex-girlfriend? So she could sit there listening to stories about his successful career, while explaining why she was serving drinks instead of creating advertising campaigns? As Maya drove home through the quiet city streets, she made a decision. She would excel at this job, save every penny she could, and keep pursuing her marketing career with renewed determination. If she ran into Daniel again, it would be on her terms, when she had something to be proud of besides just survival. The next time their paths crossed, she promised herself, the conversation would be very different. The weekend shifts at the Golden Hour proved to be everything Chloe had promised and more. Friday and Saturday nights brought a completely different energy to the club, with well-dressed crowds, expensive champagne orders, and tips that made Maya's weekday earnings look modest by comparison. By Sunday morning, she was exhausted but amazed at how much money she had made in just 2 nights. Maya threw herself into the work with renewed determination after her encounter with Daniel. She studied the wine list like she was preparing for an exam, learned the preferences of regular customers, and developed a reputation for being both professional and personable. Other servers began asking for her advice on handling difficult customers, and Chloe started assigning her to the most lucrative sections. 3 weeks passed without any sign of Daniel or his friends. Maya began to relax, convincing herself that their meeting had been a one-time coincidence. The Golden Hour was just one of many upscale establishments in the city, and there was no reason to expect he would return. During the day, she continued her job search with renewed focus. The money from the club had relieved her immediate financial pressure, allowing her to be more selective about the position she applied for. She even managed to schedule a few interviews, though none had resulted in offers yet. On a busy Saturday night in late October, Maya was serving a table of tech entrepreneurs celebrating a successful product launch when she noticed a commotion near the VIP entrance. A group of well-dressed people was being seated at one of the premium tables, and she could hear Chloe speaking to them in the especially attentive tone reserved for very important customers. "That's Dr. Harrison's group," Sarah whispered as she passed Maya with a tray of drinks. "He's some kind of famous surgeon. They drop serious money when they come in." Maya glanced over curiously and felt her stomach drop. Among the group of distinguished-looking people in expensive suits and jewelry was Daniel, looking more polished than she had ever seen him. He was wearing a perfectly tailored dark suit and speaking animatedly with an older man who had the bearing of someone very successful and powerful. This wasn't the casual group of residents she had encountered before. These were established professionals, the kind of people who made the golden hour their regular destination because they could afford the prices without thinking twice. As the evening progressed, Maya found herself assigned to serve tables near the VIP section, making it impossible to avoid seeing Daniel's group. She watched from a distance as they ordered premium champagne and expensive appetizers, their conversation punctuated by laughter and the kind of confident gestures that came with success. Daniel seemed completely at ease in this environment, clearly belonging among these successful professionals in a way that made Maya realize how much their situations had diverged. This wasn't just about career advancement. It was about entire social circles and lifestyles that were worlds apart from her current reality. Around midnight, as Maya was delivering drinks to a nearby table, she overheard part of their conversation. The older man, who she now understood was the famous Dr. Harrison, was discussing the benefits of investing in medical technology startups. "Young doctors like Daniel here are the future of medicine," Dr. Harrison was saying. "Brilliant, ambitious, and willing to take calculated risks. I've been mentoring him for the past year, and I can tell you, he's going to be very successful." Maya felt a complex mix of emotions hearing this praise. She was genuinely happy for Daniel's success, but it also highlighted the growing distance between their lives. He was being mentored by famous surgeons and discussing investments while she was serving drinks and worrying about making rent. As she moved through her section, Maya became increasingly aware that Daniel was watching her work. Unlike their first encounter, there was no question about recognition now. He knew exactly who she was and what she was doing, and she could feel his eyes following her as she moved between tables. The group stayed late, long past the time when most Saturday night customers had gone home. As closing time approached, Maya hoped they would leave without any direct interaction. But as she was clearing tables in their vicinity, Dr. Harrison called out to her. "Excuse me, miss," the distinguished surgeon said with the authoritative tone of someone accustomed to immediate attention. "Could you bring us one more bottle of the Cristal champagne? And perhaps some of those chocolate desserts?" Maya approached their table professionally, very aware that Daniel was watching her every move. "Of course, Dr. Harrison, I'll have that right out for you." As she took the order, Dr. Harrison continued speaking. "You know, you remind me of someone, young lady. Have we met before?" Before Maya could respond, Daniel spoke up quietly. "She's an old friend from college, Dr. Harrison. Maya and I studied together before I went to medical school." The older man's eyebrows rose with interest. "Really? What field did you study, Maya?" Maya felt trapped between honesty and embarrassment. The entire table was now focused on her, including several other successful professionals who were clearly accustomed to networking and making connections wherever they went. "Marketing and communications," she replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "Excellent field," Dr. Harrison said approvingly. "Are you working in advertising now?" "Always good to meet creative professionals." The question hung in the air like a challenge. Maya could feel Daniel's tension as he waited to see how she would respond. She had a choice: lie and risk being caught later, or tell the truth and face whatever judgment might follow. "I'm between positions right now," she said carefully. "The agency world has been challenging lately, so I'm exploring different opportunities while I continue my search." It was a diplomatic way of acknowledging her situation, without going into uncomfortable details. Dr. Harrison nodded understanding, clearly recognizing the euphemistic language of someone managing a career transition. "Smart approach," he said. "Sometimes the best opportunities come when we're open to unexpected paths. Daniel here took a gap year before medical school to work in medical research. Wasn't what he originally planned, but it made him a better doctor. Maya glanced at Daniel, surprised by this revelation. He had never mentioned taking time off from his carefully planned academic trajectory. Their eyes met briefly, and she saw something that looked like solidarity rather than pity. "I'll get that champagne for you," Maya said, eager to escape the attention and process this new information about Daniel's path to success. As she walked toward the bar, Maya reflected on Dr. Harrison's casual mention of Daniel's detour. Perhaps their paths hadn't been as different as she had assumed. Maybe Daniel understood more about uncertainty and adaptation than she had given him credit for. When Maya returned with the champagne and desserts, she found the conversation at Dr. Harrison's table had shifted to discussing upcoming medical conferences and research opportunities. She served them efficiently, hoping to complete the interaction without further personal questions. But as she was about to leave, Dr. Harrison surprised her again. "Maya, do you have any experience with healthcare marketing? We're actually looking for someone to help with communications for a new medical research foundation I'm establishing." Maya's heart skipped a beat. A marketing opportunity in healthcare was exactly the kind of position she had been hoping to find. But the timing and circumstances made her cautious about seeming too eager. "I've done some research into healthcare communications during my job search," she replied honestly. "It's a field I'm very interested in." "Excellent," Dr. Harrison said, pulling out an elegant business card. "Give my office a call next week. I'd like to discuss this opportunity with you properly. We need someone who understands both traditional marketing and the unique challenges of medical communications." Maya accepted the card with trembling hands, barely believing what was happening. A genuine career opportunity was emerging from what had started as her most embarrassing professional moment. "Thank you, Dr. Harrison. I'll definitely call." As she walked away from their table, Maya caught Daniel watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Was it pride, surprise, something else entirely? The interaction had shifted the dynamic between them in a way that felt significant but unclear. The rest of the evening passed in a blur. Maya found herself distracted, replaying Dr. Harrison's offer and wondering if it was real or just polite conversation that wouldn't lead anywhere. She had learned to be cautious about getting her hopes up after so many disappointing job prospects. When closing time arrived, Dr. Harrison's group was among the last to leave. As they prepared to go, the distinguished surgeon approached Maya one more time. "I meant what I said about calling my office," he told her quietly. "Daniel has told me a bit about your background, and I think you might be exactly what we're looking for. Sometimes the best candidates come from unexpected places." After they left, Maya stood in the empty club, holding Dr. Harrison's business card and trying to process what had just happened. Sarah approached her with a knowing smile. "That looked like more than just serving drinks," she said. "Everything okay?" "I think so," Maya replied, still somewhat dazed. "Actually, I think it might be very okay." As Maya drove home that night, she found herself thinking about Daniel in a completely different way. Instead of the privileged ex-boyfriend who had never struggled, she was beginning to see someone who had also faced uncertainty and made difficult choices. His gap year before medical school suggested a more complex journey than she had assumed. Monday morning found Maya nervously dialing Dr. Harrison's office. His assistant was professional and efficient, scheduling an interview for Wednesday afternoon at his private practice. The opportunity felt surreal after months of rejection and disappointment. Maya spent Tuesday researching everything she could about Dr. Harrison, his medical practice, and the healthcare communications field. She prepared for the interview with an intensity she hadn't felt since college, determined not to waste this unexpected chance. Wednesday afternoon, Maya sat in the elegant waiting room of Dr. Harrison's practice, wearing her best interview suit and trying to calm her nerves. When she was called into his office, she found herself facing not just Dr. Harrison, but also Daniel. "I hope you don't mind that I asked Daniel to join us," Dr. Harrison explained. "Since he knows your background and will be working closely with our communications team, I thought his input would be valuable." Maya felt momentarily thrown off balance, but she managed to maintain her professional composure. Of course, the interview proceeded better than Maya had dared to hope. Dr. Harrison's new foundation focused on funding innovative medical research, and they needed someone who could translate complex medical information into accessible communications for donors, patients, and the general public. Maya found herself drawing on knowledge she had gained from her science courses in college. her marketing training, and even insights from her recent work at the Golden Hour. Understanding how to communicate with different audiences and manage high-pressure situations, she realized, were skills that transferred across industries. Your unconventional background is actually an asset, Dr. Harrison noted. Too many healthcare communications people get trapped in medical jargon. We need someone who can speak to real people about complex topics. Daniel contributed thoughtfully to the interview, asking questions about her approach to different communication challenges and discussing how research findings could be made accessible to various audiences. Maya found herself impressed by his insights and professionalism. As the interview concluded, Dr. Harrison made an offer that took Maya's breath away. The position included a competitive salary, excellent benefits, and the opportunity to work on cutting-edge medical research communications. It was everything she had hoped for and more. "I'd like to offer you the position," Dr. Harrison said. "When could you start?" Maya felt tears of relief threatening to form. "I would need to give notice at my current job, but I could start in 2 weeks." "Perfect," Dr. Harrison replied. "Daniel will be your primary contact for medical content, so you'll be working together regularly. I trust that won't be a problem." Maya glanced at Daniel, who was watching her with what looked like genuine happiness about her success. "No problem at all." After Dr. Harrison left to see a patient, Maya found herself alone with Daniel in the office. The silence stretched between them, filled with everything that had happened since their first encounter at the club. "Congratulations," Daniel said finally. "You're going to be great at this job." "Thank you," Maya replied. "And thank you for whatever you told Dr. Harrison about me. I know this opportunity came through you somehow." Daniel shook his head. "I just told him the truth about who you are. The rest was all you." For the first time since their college breakup, Maya felt like she was seeing Daniel clearly, without the lens of her own insecurities or assumptions about their different backgrounds. He had used his position not to rescue her, but to create an opportunity for her to rescue herself. Maya's last shift at the Golden Hour was bittersweet. Over the past few months, the club had become more than just a job. It had been a place where she discovered her own resilience and ability to adapt. Chloe threw a small celebration for her departure, and even the regular customers wished her well when they heard she was moving on to a career position. "You're going to do amazing things," Sarah told her as they finished cleaning up after the final Saturday night. "And don't forget about us little people when you're running some big marketing campaign." Maya laughed, but she was genuinely grateful for the friendship she had formed and the lessons she had learned. Working at the club had taught her about grace under pressure, reading people quickly, and maintaining professionalism in challenging situations. These were skills that would serve her well in any career. Starting work at the Harrison Foundation felt like stepping into a completely different world. Maya's office was in a sleek medical complex, and her days were filled with reviewing research proposals, writing grant applications, and creating materials to explain complex medical breakthroughs to potential donors and the general public. Working with Daniel proved to be surprisingly natural. Their shared history provided a foundation of understanding, while their professional relationship allowed them to interact without the emotional baggage of their past romance. Daniel was an excellent collaborator, able to explain medical concepts clearly and always respectful of Maya's expertise in communications. "You have a gift for making complicated things understandable," Daniel told her after she had successfully secured a major donation by presenting a research proposal in terms that non-medical donors could appreciate. "Dr. Harrison was right about your unconventional background being an asset." As weeks turned into months, Maya found herself thriving in ways she hadn't expected. The work was challenging and meaningful, combining her marketing skills with a sense of purpose that had been missing from her previous career goals. She was helping to fund research that could save lives, and she was good at it. Her relationship with Daniel evolved gradually from professional courtesy to genuine friendship. They often grabbed coffee between meetings, discussing work projects but also sharing stories about their respective journeys since college. Maya learned about the challenges of medical training, the long hours, and the emotional weight of patient care that Daniel carried. "I always envied how certain you seemed about everything," Maya admitted one afternoon as they walked through the medical campus. "Your whole life looked so planned and secure." Daniel laughed, shaking his head. "Are you kidding? I was terrified most of the time. That gap year I took, I was completely burnt out and questioning whether I even wanted to be a doctor. I spent 6 months working as a research assistant, basically starting over. This revelation surprised Maya. You never mentioned that when we were dating. I was too proud to admit I was struggling, Daniel said. Same reason I never told you how impressed I was by your independence. You always figured things out on your own. Never asked for help you didn't need. Maya realized they had both been carrying misconceptions about each other's experiences. The success she had envied in Daniel had come with its own challenges and uncertainties, while the struggles she had been embarrassed about demonstrated exactly the kind of resilience and adaptability that impressed him. 6 months into her new job, Maya received an unexpected call from a major advertising agency that had rejected her application the previous year. They had heard about her work with the Harrison Foundation and wanted to discuss a position leading their new healthcare communications division. The offer was flattering and included a significant salary increase, but Maya found herself hesitating. She had found more than just a job at the foundation. She had discovered work that felt meaningful and a professional environment where she was valued and growing. What are you thinking? Daniel asked when she told him about the offer over lunch. A year ago, I would have said yes immediately, Maya replied. It's everything I thought I wanted, but now I'm not sure that's who I am anymore. What do you mean? Maya considered her words carefully. When I was working at the club, I thought it was just a detour from my real life. But maybe it was actually pointing me toward something better than what I had originally planned. Daniel smiled. Sounds like you already know your answer. Maya did know. She declined the agency offer and threw herself even more deeply into her work at the foundation. Within a year, she had been promoted to Director of Communications, leading a team responsible for major fundraising campaigns and public education initiatives. Her relationship with Daniel deepened as well, though they were both careful not to rush into anything romantic. They had both changed significantly since college, and they wanted to build their friendship on who they were now, not who they had been years earlier. I keep thinking about that night when we first ran into each other again, Daniel said one evening as they walked along the river after a foundation fundraising gala. You were so angry that I had seen you at the club. I was embarrassed, Maya corrected. I thought it meant I had failed somehow. But you hadn't failed at all, Daniel said. You were doing exactly what you needed to do, and it led you to exactly where you belonged. That takes courage. Maya smiled, thinking about the journey that had brought her to this moment. Maybe the real failure would have been giving up or accepting help I didn't earn. Looking back, Maya could see that every part of her experience had contributed to her success. The marketing skills from college, the resilience learned during months of job searching, the grace under pressure developed at the golden hour, and even the humility that came from swallowing her pride and doing whatever work was necessary. As they walked together under the city lights, Maya realized that sometimes the most important journeys are the ones that take us away from where we thought we wanted to go, only to bring us to where we actually belong. Her story wasn't about being rescued or getting lucky. It was about discovering her own strength and creating opportunities through determination and adaptability. The nightclub that had once felt like a symbol of how far she had fallen had actually been the bridge to a future better than anything she had originally imagined. And Daniel, who she had once seen as a reminder of her failures, had become a partner in both work and life who understood exactly what that journey had cost and what it had given her in return.